Chapter 17. A petite brunette approached the table and set a glass before AJ. "Jack and Coke?" AJ winked and took a sip of his drink. She grabbed the second glass from her tray and placed it in front of Jags. "Jack and Coke?" "Thank you, Kara." "You're welcome." She gave Jags another glance. "I like your costume." His jaw dropped. "See? She knew it was a costume." AJ and Cam rolled their eyes. She placed the last glass before Cam. "And Jack and Coke. You guys want to order some food?" "No," Cam said. She gave him a small smile and left. Cam promised to keep Maggie's secret, and he intended to do so. But how could he ask AJ about the incident without risking her big secret being revealed? He hadn't dated in years and didn't have any friends aside from his brothers. So if AJ met Maggie, he'd probably figure out the girl Cam asked about was her. But they weren't dating, weren't friends. So there was nothing stopping Cam from drilling AJ about the little fuckers. And even by chance, if AJ did meet Maggie someday, Cam would tell him to keep her secret, and AJ would. That simple. Cam swiveled his high-back chair. He put a hand on Jags' chest and pushed him backwards, giving him a clear view of AJ. "Do you remember if any of the football players you went to high school with talked about..." A bolt of pain shot through Cam's head. He rubbed his temples with his fingertips. "Giving it good to a cheerleader from a rival high school?" AJ smirked. "Football players constantly bragged about getting laid." 4 football players. Another piercing pain shot from behind his eyes. 1 cheerleader. Against her will. AJ swiveled his chair toward Cam and leaned in front of Jags, bringing his face within inches of Cam's. "That was 10 fucking years ago. Why aren't you asking?" "So you remember." AJ nodded. "I want names." "I don't have names. I didn't exactly hang out in the same crowds as the football players. They were usually the ones me and the Hell Pack beat to a pulp." "You were in the Hell Pack?" Jags asked. "Was I in the Hell Pack?" AJ snorted. "The fucking Hell Pack reported to me. There were 8 of us, including me. And the football players were some of our favorite targets." "We never talk about this again," Cam said. "Get me?" AJ and Jags nodded. "Well, girls, what are we drinking?" Tilly asked. A waiter passed carrying a glass. Gold liquid rode the sides of the bowl in sync with the waiter's movements. Maggie's thumb jutted out. "That. Margarita. I could do margaritas." "I think I'll stick with iced tea," Star said. Tilly fished her phone from her purse. "Nate," Maggie said. "I just want to send him a text and let him know we got here okay. It's not normal." Tilly sent the message and slipped her phone into her purse. "Don't start." Star pointed toward the doorway. "Too late. That ship sailed." Tilly slid off her tall chair. "Sorry, girls. I'll get rid of him." She shoved her way through the crowd. Nate, her tall, blonde, gorgeous, and infuriating husband, spotted her and waved. Approaching him, she asked, "What are you doing here?" Pressing his mouth to hers, Nate drew her lips into his mouth and weaved his fingers through her short hair. When he pulled her closer to deepen his kiss, she grabbed his upper arms and pushed him away. "Go home." Nate held her between his hands and whispered against her mouth, "Just marking my territory." She pointed to her wedding band. "That's what this is for?" He took a step back. "What are the rules?" She waggled her fingers. "Girls' night out. Bye." Nate flipped open a finger. 1. Don't go to the bathroom alone. Buddy system. Taking another step back, He flipped a second finger open. 2. Never leave a drink unattended.
Go.
3. I love you. Now halfway out the door.
I love you too, but if you come in here, it's grounds for divorce.
He stepped back toward her and gave her a quick kiss. 4. You're not allowed to divorce me. She laughed.
Go.
The glass door closed. When he mouthed, I love you, she offered him a small smile and pantomimed, I love you too. Tilly moved through the crowded bar and climbed onto the tall chair beside Maggie.
Really?
Maggie asked. Tilly glared at her.
I said don't. I'm just saying, it's not normal. Maggie? All right.
Maggie held up her hands in surrender.
I'll shut up. Thank you. Did you order our drinks yet? Nobody's been by.
Maggie grasped Tilly's elbow and dragged her from the stool.
Star, we're going to the bar to get drinks. Be right back.
For the past hour, AJ's gaze followed every woman that had passed their table. He was a famished man selecting his next meal, and Cam wanted to punch him in the head. AJ's dick ruled his life, and one of these days, it would get him into a heap of trouble.
So, what do you think of Cam's restaurant?
Jags asked. About time he did something with that old place. AJ sipped his drink and looked at Cam. Green, huh? Jags waggled his eyebrows at AJ. He's got a friend who likes green. AJ leaned in front of Jags, closer to Cam. A friend? You don't have any friends.
He does now.
Cam took a swig of his drink and slammed the glass down. Shut your trap. Glad to hear it, AJ said. Celibacy is not for you. My standards are higher than yours, that's all. Cam tossed the remainder of his drink down. I have standards too, AJ said. What? Warm blood? That's preferable. AJ finished the last of his drink. But I'm perfectly capable of warming a woman up. He held his empty glass over his head and panned the restaurant. If need be. Kara approached.
Another round?
That would be fantastic, Jag said. AJ grasped her wrist. I've missed you, baby. She smirked.
Liar.
What time do you get off?
I'm sorry.
Kara pulled her hand away.
I have a boyfriend now.
Never stopped us before. AJ crooked his finger. When she leaned down, he whispered, We won't tell him. She gave him a tight smile and shook her head.
I'll be right back with another round.
AJ watched her walk away. Jag snapped his fingers in his line of vision.
We're over here.
Sorry, guys. AJ slid off his stool. I'll be back. He pushed his way through the crowd and approached the end of the bar. He took Kara by the elbow and whispered in her ear. $10 as he does her in the men's room, Cam said.
I'm gonna pass on that bet.
Look. Jags glanced over his shoulder. AJ had his arm draped around Kara's shoulder, and they walked toward the back of the bar. His womanizing days are numbered. You had a vision? Jags laughed. If I told you about the woman I saw him with, you wouldn't believe me. A tall brunette approached. She held a tray with 3 drinks balanced on top.
Where's Kara?
Jags asked.
She'll be back. I'm just helping her out for a few minutes.
A few minutes, Cam muttered. Somehow I doubt that.
Is she okay?
Jags asked.
She's fine.
Cam groaned. I'll bet. Jags ran his hand down the front of his face and nodded to the waitress. Thanks. She turned and left. You don't think... Yup. Jags laughed and sat back. And so the craziness begins. 2 hours and several rounds of whiskey later, AJ excused himself again. I'll be back. AJ? What? Really? Relax. I'm just going to go get us another round. With that, he was gone. He squeezed through the crowd to get to the bar. He leaned over his folded arms and gazed down the long, shiny counter, searching for the bartender. He turned to see what the commotion was about. The crowd was gathered around a table, mostly men. His curiosity getting the best of him, he pushed and shoved his way through. He found a sexy redhead leaned over a man who was sprawled flat on a table. Her face hovered over his groin, and her hands were clasped behind her back. When she lifted her head, he saw a shot glass dangling from her mouth. With a tilt of her head, she poured the liquid down her throat. Another approving roar erupted from the crowd. "Do me," AJ said, taking a step forward. The man she was just leaning over sat up and glared at him. "Hey dude, what's up?" AJ, almost as tall and almost as scary as his big brother, towered over the man. "You don't want to fuck with me, asshole," the man said as he scrambled through the crowd. She wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. Her eyes roamed up and down AJ's tall body. She pushed past him. AJ followed her to a nearby table where two other women were seated. "You brought back a pet," one of the women said. AJ offered his hand. "Hi, I'm Charlie." She accepted with a shake. "I'm Tilly," gesturing to the woman beside her. She said, "This is Star." Sensing Star's shyness, he simply sent her a warm smile, then turned his attention back to the redhead. "You are..." The redhead rested her elbows on the table, her hands holding her head up. "Drunk." He brought his face under hers. "Why so glum?" When she didn't reply, he looked to the other women. "Nursing a broken heart," Tilly said. The redhead turned her face, her palm on her cheek holding her head up. "He wants me to be..." She closed her eyes. "Friends." "Friends can be a good thing," AJ said. She groaned and turned her gaze back to the table. "Friends with benefits?" AJ asked. "I tried that." AJ frowned. "Is he gay?" "I know, right? That's what I thought." "So he is gay." She sighed. "I don't think so." AJ took a deep breath, basking in the scent emanating from her mouth. He scooted himself between the redhead and the table. "Hi." She leaned back, trying to put distance between them. "Can I help you?" Her eyes narrowed. "Have we met? You look familiar." "I'd remember meeting you." With a wave of her hand, she said, "You're cute, but I'm out of your league." She shoved him aside. He scooted back in front of her with a look of contempt. "Out of your league? What the hell does that mean?" "I'll talk slower." With her face close to his, he couldn't help inhaling, reveling in the potent aroma of tequila and the scent of lime. "I'm too good for you." "I'll make a deal with you." "Not interested." He leaned closer. "You'll be screaming my name before this night ends. I promise you that." "Let me be clearer. Fuck off." "Help a lonely soldier out. Gotta go back soon." She opened her mouth for what was sure to be a verbal lashing, but hesitated. Shrugging, she jumped from her stool. "Let's go." "Following you." "Maggie?" Tilly called after her. "I'll be right back. This won't take long." Maggie wanted to hook up, if only to get her mind off Cam, and this guy was as good as any. Then why did she want to go home, change into an oversized shirt, and climb into bed? When Charlie took her hand, She blinked back the tears and told herself this is what she needed. Just like Star had said, a friend, a distraction. He led her to the men's room and pulled her inside. As he locked the door, she wrinkled her nose. Yellow dripped off the raised toilet seat. The room reeked of ammonia, the telltale scent of urine derived from a diet of mostly meat and few vegetables. Her hands went to her hips.
I know you don't think this is happening here.
He shoved her face first against the paneled wall, brushed her long hair to the side, and nibbled on the back of her neck. She tried to wiggle loose, but he pushed his hard, tall body against hers. I'll take care of you, baby. Trust me. He slid her skirt up and snapped the G-string on her panties. Charlie smacked her ass. Nice. Maggie shrugged him off and turned to face him, tugging her skirt down, covering herself.
Listen, dumbass.
A familiar voice boomed from the other side of the closed door. Put your pecker away and let's get the hell out of here.
Cam?
Charlie said. No, it's Santa Claus, asshole. Maggie covered her mouth. Circling around him, she stepped backward until her back was against the opposite wall, and she could add no more distance between her and Charlie. She eyed his fatigues, his black hair and olive skin. I'll be just a few minutes, Charlie said. Maggie shook her head and crossed her arms over her chest. You got 2, then I leave your ass here. Charlie grinned and stepped toward her. Where were we? Oh yeah. He snapped his fingers. I was about to give you a fuck you'll never forget. Maggie smacked him across the face, then kneed him in the groin.
Oh!
You bitch.
Your name's not Charlie, is it?
Why the hell do you care what my name is? She pinned him with narrow eyes.
You're Cam's brother, aren't you?
He stood to his full height, towering over her, a look of curiosity on his handsome face. His gaze lowered to her green skirt. He's got a friend who likes green. Oh, fuck.
Nice to meet you, AJ.
He shook his head. Does Cam know what a whore you are? Maggie slapped him again. AJ palmed his cheek. A slow smile formed on his face. Next time, I hit back.
Fuck you.
No thanks. I like my body parts to remain intact, so I make it a rule never to fuck my brother's girlfriends. Maggie scoffed.
I ain't his girlfriend.
AJ's eyes widened. Maybe you should let Cam in on that little secret. He unlocked the door. I don't know what the deal is between you two. AJ tapped his head against the closed door. He hasn't dated in a long time. And for whatever fucked up reason, he's fallen for you. AJ glanced over his shoulder at her. Fallen hard. If you don't feel the same, then tell him so. He may not seem like it on the outside, but he's a good guy and doesn't deserve... He smirked. You. Before she could respond, AJ left, leaving her alone, standing in the men's room of this crappy podunk bar. A flickering fluorescent bulb barely illuminated the urine on the floor and the cigarette butt in the sink. Beer cans and bottles littered the floor. Cam had fallen for her? Then why hadn't he called? She groaned at her own stupidity. He hadn't called because she gave him the shove-off. She glanced in the mirror. Her mascara had begun to clump. The heat and humidity had flushed her cheeks. Her hair lay matted with sweat. With the backdrop of urine and stale beer, she had nearly fucked Cam's brother. She was a mess, inside and out. Another knock on the door. A cowboy glared at her. "You're in the wrong one, sweetheart." Maggie smiled up at him. He frowned. "You okay?" She nodded. "One too many?" The cowboy glanced around the crowded bar. "You here with friends, sweetheart? Someone I can call for you?" Maggie stepped past him into the crowd. "You gonna be okay?" the cowboy called after her. She'd spent the last decade trying to convince Tilly, Star, her dad, and her brother that she was okay. They'd been overprotective, constantly bailing her out of shit she'd gotten herself into. The more they tried to shelter her from the big bad world, the harder she'd looked for trouble.
"Yes,"
she said to the cowboy.
"I'll be okay."
And for the first time, she actually believed it.